bat.
Good morning. Welcome to SJU. It's Wednesday. Joe, Dan, Spencer, Edward, Eduardo.
I was on some weird rant right before, but now I'm tapping my energy down for the show.
Redirect. You gotta redirect. We're talking the Watchmen trailer today that just dropped a couple minutes ago.
TikTok.
And then we're just gonna. We haven't heard many thoughts on Avengers Endgame from this side of the table, so you guys are going to talk for 25 minutes uninterrupted by Dan and I while we sit and listen.
We're going to leave, honestly.
Yeah, Dan and I got stuff to do. There's a nice little taco truck that pulled up outside. We're going to get some breakfast burritos, and you guys are going to talk Avengers Endgame.
I want to do that.
No. We did the spoiler review.
Make mine con tocino.
And then we're going to talk a little bit about the future of the MCU, what we're going to see, what we'd like to see, blah, 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 blah. Let's jump into it. First, let's talk this Watchmen trailer. Again, TikTok. General reactions, folks. I have no idea what this is about, and I'm into that.
It's a sequel. It's clearly a sequel.
Yep.
I know that much, because... Ozymandias is Jeremy Irons now. He's really old, hanging out. This trailer looked pretty cool to me. It looked pretty cool, even though this is a serious high wire act of all high wire acts of following up Watchmen, the graphic novel, with a new story. They've done it in the comics to mixed results, prequels, sequels. The Watchmen is such a beautiful, self-contained story that, aside from, Rorschach's journal, where you're like, oh, I wonder if anyone ever found that, there's really no loose threads.
Yeah, well, apparently a room full of Midwestern guys found it.
Yeah, the Fight Club found it. His name is Robert Paulson. Oh, we're not doing that anymore. Now it's TikTok. Yeah. TikTok.
First rule of Rorschach Club.
First rule of Rorschach Club. Yeah, David Lindelof, say what you will about Lost, it had some great years. Same with Leftovers, I hear, got amazing by the end. And so I'm kind of inspired by the creative team and by the cast. But man, I don't know. I've said this before, but Watchmen is so much about not just the times that it was produced in, but also graphic novels themselves and playing with the medium of comics that if you're not doing something that's both about the times and genius and about comic books and about the medium, I guess now of television itself, then you're falling short. So it's a lot to bite off.
You're kind of expecting some kind of response to the MCU age, or even just streaming.
Yeah, the worry is that Warner Brothers or whoever owns HBO at this point, I have no idea, is just that could be a franchise without really having a reason beyond that. So we'll see.
Dana?
Yeah. I think of all the things that Watchmen was, the graphic novel or / comic series that is then compressed, whatever. Was satirizing. The one that I think they didn't know they were satirizing was Dr. Manhattan saying nothing ever ends. Because that has 100% turned out to be the case, particularly with comic books and comic book movies in the decades since. I'm intrigued. As watchers of movie fights know, I pitched doing the original as an HBO miniseries because I really and still do feel like you cannot accurately capture everything going on in a 2 to 3 hour movie. But this looks, I'm intrigued. I'm curious. For me, it's like an Elseworlds thing. I'm not going to take this as canon. This is the definitive story, because they've done Watchmen sequels in the comic books and folded them into mythology, and I think Dr. Manhattan met Superman. I don't know, but so there's been a lot done with the Watchmen. Yeah. So I'm intrigued, but I also think that as with most things that have been generated about Watchmen since it was published, it's also kind of antithetical to the entire thesis of the story.
Sure. Yeah, I get that. Eduardo?
It just seems, number one, I love when people experiment with stuff. And I think what's interesting about this is it seems to be the story of a saved world. You know what I mean? Whatever alien disturbance, whatever came down, and now the saved world has all these new problems because of the new psychosis of what's happened. And I think that is kind of interesting. But it is also exactly what Alan Moore didn't want He's in his basement doing some plague magic, throwing up crypt signs and stuff, doing all this crypto jazz.
Is it Glycon?
Covered in snakes. Yeah.
Dude, he's floating in his basement right now, going trying to burn this film up because this is exactly what he didn't want. So in that respect, I kind of, I mean, he is a crazy old man, but I respect him for his work. So
Sure.
if he didn't want it to go this way, this seems to be like from one of his fever dreams. You know what I mean? This sort of thing.
Yeah, like one of his little worst nightmare situations that he wakes from a start from. To me, I was interested watching the trailer. I've never been super attached to the characters or the lore from Watchmen. To me, it's always been, in any of its incarnations, whether it's the prequels or when they mix it in with DC kind of recently with, I can't remember the name of the storyline now off the top of my head.
Not New 62. It was
No,
where they tried to retcon how dark everything got.
Yeah,
by saying,
it was pretty recent. I just lost it. Let me know in the comments politely. But to me, it's always
Joe.
it was called the Mummy cartoon that existed. Mr.
How many
Starr.
M's on that Over under 5?
7.
But to me, it's always been like an interesting idea factory, if that makes sense. Like that's what's always drawn me. That's what's always connected me to the book. And anytime anyone tries to do a spin on it, is like, well, what's your idea? What's your concept? What theme are you trying to explore? Because that's almost more important to me than Watchmen, than Rorschach and the Owl guy and Silk Spectra.
Pirate guy on a raft.
Yeah, pirate guy on a raft. Yeah, exactly. Like, as
Don't forget Pirate Guy on the
as
Raft.
characters, I've never been like attached to any of them, but as big discussion points, I'm like, yeah, they do the job well. So
Yeah, I just always thought that Watchmen transcends. I love the original. Like, I think it's so thematically dense and rich, and I love how it's structured, and I love like interweaving articles and stories and history and the Black the Black Freighter and everything. I just love that story. And so for me, when you're saying sequel to Watchmen, that would be like somebody saying like, I'm writing a sequel to War and Peace. Like, okay, well, I mean, everything was really said already in War and Peace, and I don't really know if you're going to add anything to it. But okay, that's fine, but I'm not gonna.
What did Nick Carraway do after Gatsby died?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah, I think Watchmen is one of those pieces of I consider it to be literature that transcends what a lot of other stuff has been done in the medium. So that's why I'm interested in that. I'm intrigued, but I'm not.
Worst case,
Watchmen is done as far as I'm concerned.
You know what I think it is? Like, just judging for the trailer and judging for all the stuff, it's a bunch of bums finding out the secret, and they go, oh, we got to take it to the halls of power. Like, if we all found out that the lizard people or whatever these other Jones types talk about, like, if we found out that was real, us 4 guys, how do you prove that? What do you do? How do you spread the meme? What do you do if you find out your world is a lie, and like that actual so-called Matrix situation where the world's a lie, it's a sugar-coated topping, you know what I mean? If you find out that, what do you do? Form a weird coalition that's kind of like the Klan, visually.
the Rorschach militia.
Right, so they found out they're Rorschach truthers. They clearly, they saw it got published in the Watchmen Inquirer or whatever that newspaper was, and they found out that Ozymandias caused the piece, the price being dropping a giant squid on everyone, if they're going to keep that.
Yeah, is it going to be Squid or is it going to be Dr. Manhattan? Are we going comic lore or movie lore?
I'm hoping we go comic
I'm
lore.
hoping it's a Squid.
Yeah.
And I hope it's a
agree.
squid. And then even if it like
Squidgate.
even if that like
Squidgate.
blows up the world again and tears people apart, like that was already kind of addressed in Watchmen, where Dr. Manhattan is like, you didn't really change anything.
You're a
Nothing's-
moron.
Like we knew at the end of Watchmen that this wasn't permanent. So I guess now we get to see it.
Yeah. And one thing that makes Watchmen so perfect is it is about humanity dealing with an actual Superman, not some blonde, not some brunette with blue eyes that looks just like you and you're perfect. No, this blue guy with his balls out. That's your Superman. This guy's your Superman. Deal with it.
Yeah.
And guess what? He don't care about the American way. He cares about tachyons and little particles and all this jazz. And he doesn't even process time. He's like talking to himself in the future. I'm talking to your corpse right now, John. It's like, what? This guy's so dealing with a Superman that's a freak That's what it seems like Watchmen was
You're
about.
not
Like,
wrong.
Balls out freak.
yeah, a Superman that is a freak and doesn't care about you, doesn't care about putting the damn flag on top of the building at the end. He doesn't care about that crap at all, dude. He's looking at you as he's looking at the cellular decay going on your synapses firing. So
He's not going to have the
you know,
opening sequence where he saves the crashing plane.
right, and it's about humanity dealing with a Superman that is that. And now our Superman is gone, presumably in space, building crap on Mars, doing stuff. So basically, this Earth
He'll be back.
Yeah.
If there's a sequel.
But this
It's like-
Earth that's left in Lex Luthor's hands, and a bunch of dudes with masks on trying to solve that. That I think I just sold myself on it.
All right.
Yeah.
There you
Talk
go.
yourself into it. Cool. Let us know what you think about the Watchmen trailer below in the comments. Gentlemen, it's time. Marvel and the Russos officially lifted the spoiler ban
Did they
on
ever?
Endgame in a big way. Dan just showed me the new TV spot. The TV spot is literally just every
everything.
spoiler.
Everyone is. I mean, I guess.
Also,
we're
here we
doing
go.
spoiler warning.
Spoilers for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, it's crazy. The new TV spot for Endgame is. I guess they just assume that everyone who cares has seen it because it's like everyone's back. Tony hugging Peter. The shot of all the Marvel women together. The group fight. Doctor Strange. Cap with the hammer. Avengers assemble. It's like everything.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
literally, you can tell now. They're shot. It's just like you're gonna remember this movie until you see it again.
Yeah.
We're gonna make you remember it so hard that you pay $10 more to go see
Yeah,
it again.
it's not. Yeah, and even just the shot. It's not just the stuff, but like the shots. They use all the huge third act hero shots, like the splash pages and everything.
Yeah.
I was like, damn. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
That spoiler ban fell with a vengeance.
It's done.
Yes.
It's done. But that said, this means while Dan and I take a short breather, you guys get to talk about what you thought about Endgame a little bit.
No, this was super fun. I mean, it's great. I think that me personally, any 3-hour comic book movie is gratuitous. I always think that there's like 20 minutes that you could find here and there to. But I get it. They had to service all these plot lines and tie them up, and it's an impossible task to make everyone happy when you're juggling that many balls at the same time. But they caught most of those
Dr.
balls.
Manhattan balls.
Yeah, juggling Dr. Manhattan's tachyon-filled balls. They did as good as you could have done. Like, I think that Black Widow, we barely knew ye. She was like given the same level of TLC that I think she's gotten throughout the whole MCU, which is like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I guess, like that didn't affect me that much, but I think that suited her character, which was they never really gave you much to be affected by from her, which is too bad.
Yeah, outside of the weirdness in Age of Ultron, which we won't relitigate.
The ballet school flashback, like you never really got much. I liked her kind of like put upon, trying to hold it down back at HQ, but her death did not strike me as hard as Tony's, which even though I think we knew coming, I don't know if you want to parse his contract like years ago, but it was some really good acting, probably the best acting of his MCU tenure.
Really good acting.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think they knew how big a deal Black Panther was going to be because they filmed these back to back. He just kind of prances through and is like, bye.
I do think they retroactively did make him the first, because I didn't really notice it the first time, but the second time I noticed that like he gets the hero entrance from the portals, like all the portals open and like the big profile shot, like the big "we're back" is given to Black Panther, and I do think they did that retroactively because it came out in between the time that they were filming it, and they're like, oh yeah, no, he's the one that we're gonna, because everyone else just kind of flies through, like Black Panther like gets like a 20-second shot like standing there, and then Falcon just kind of goes like right by him. So I think they monkeyed around with it a little bit as far as like the editing and exactly how the order that people were going to come out, and like I think maybe 2 years ago it was Spider-Man, and then Black Panther came out and like no, Chadwick, get over here. He needs to walk in front of this green screen.
Put down that coffee cup.
Yeah, put it on the Game of Thrones set and walk out.
Yeah, totally. But I mean, the movie as a whole for me felt like, and even though it was somber and dour in the first half, like it felt like a reward for coming this far. It felt like you guys have stayed loyal. We're going to take you back through all your favorite movies. including Thor: The Dark World. We're gonna take you. We're gonna give you.
That was for me. That was literally just for me.
Yeah.
The Chamber of Secrets to Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah, we're gonna reward the amount of attention you've been paying to these characters and to these plot lines. Like we are. This is everything you could have asked for from it. So it's great. It's like an impossible task, and they did about as good a job as you could hope for. So.
Yeah.
I give it 2 big thumbs up, and I'll probably see it again on video. I also have a child now, and that's my 3-hour movie problem. Is like I'm drifting unless you're like putting bright shiny colors in front of my face like every 20 minutes or so. It's like okay, man, since San Francisco. Like,
I haven't slept
time travel. Okay, we're back in the Avengers. Oh, that's cool.
I haven't slept in 8 days.
No. They have these really comfortable seats now in movie theaters.
They really
like,
do.
What are you trying to do to dads here? Like this is you unlock the skill to sleep anywhere when you have a child. So now
I do like new dad brand Spencer.
it's really powerful. I could sleep right now. Right here, right now, on camera.
Oh god. Yeah.
Test me.
Prove it.
Dude, that's
So
so funny.
Ed, wow, we lose Spencer. Were there tachyons in Endgame for you?
Spencer talked about being a dad. I gotta say, the third time I saw it, I think I was one of these sleepy ass dads because the 2 kids just ran amok behind me. And if I hadn't have seen it 3 times, there would have been some straight stone cold stunners on some kids.
That's allowed at a certain point in the movie.
Oh my god! So like this dad fell asleep, and then like Thanos, the big reveal of Thanos. So I love Black Twitter because Black Twitter was like, see, even Thanos used seasoning when he threw the salt into the space rutabaga soup. Or whatever.
He also bought a pack of Hanes beefy teas.
Oh yeah, dude.
Quintuple XL on that.
Well, you gotta show off those arms.
Yeah, Thanos is invited to the cookout. So, so basically, and then like Captain Marvel busts through the roof, and then and Thor chops his head off, and the kids go, "That was the shortest movie ever." And I'm just like, oh my god, I'm in hell. I'm in hell. And eventually they chilled out, and I could sort of appreciate their bon mot that they dropped. As it got more intense, they shut up for a minute, and I think I could gauge
Sign of
the
a good
power.
movie,
Gauge the power of the movie by them. They didn't have their Mystery Science Theater, Van Nuys edition going on while I was doing my jazz. You know what I mean? And it was like very nice. But overall,
You were doing your jazz in the theater?
yeah, I was doing my jazz.
That's how they got Pee Wee Herman.
Dude, the jazz. Well, jazz means smoking. So yes, I was doing my jazz in the theater shortly before to enhance the experience. And me and Louis Armstrong, it's part of our
Jazz
genius.
cigarettes,
Yeah, jazz cigarettes, baby. So we were, and the chat's going like, yeah, I knew something was up with this guy. No one's that intense. But I did really enjoy all the fan service and all that stuff. And I have to say jazz 4 times a show because I learned in the chat that they hate that.
That's your brand.
Yeah, it's my brand.
I say and don't remember names, and you say jazz.
So I did enjoy all the fan service, but I think I enjoyed different fan service than people, and I started getting arguments with some of my friends coming back from it who are like, well, they chopped the Hulk out again, man. Hulk didn't get to just jump on Thanos and smack him up. And I'm just like, you're really Rise of the Jediing me, you know what I mean? Whatever's that last one, The Last Jedi. You're real Last Jediing me right now because all of us in comicdom have the Hulk should have did this. Hulk should have said, for the last 5 years, I've not only been getting smart, I've been learning how to fight with Captain America. Blah, blah, blah. Everybody has those goofy Mary Sue fan service moments they want to see in the movie. And all of us got probably 40%, 20% of the ones you have in your mind. Cap wielding Mjolnir, all that jazz. It was like beautiful. It was moving to see all this combination. And please don't at me with this. What does the Hang Together is a real movie because you have to see all this stuff. Nobody watches the last episode of Seinfeld and goes, well, it'd be better
I
if
didn't understand any of this.
The continuity. It's like, that argument is so stupid, it made me sick. It came up a couple times. But yeah, I do believe that Universal situation makes them not use the Hulk. But you see, Hulk, Captain Marvel, these are these are characters that are so powerful, just like in the comics. They find some way to shunt them off somewhere so that Batman could be in a van with 16 guys, because that's got more drama than Superman versus an armada. It's just a fact of life. So, like, I love the way that overall they organize the action.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big action junkie.
Well, and Hulk also brought back half the living creatures
Exactly,
in the universe. What more
exactly.
do you want Hulk to do?
Exactly.
He undid the big thing that was done.
And I think
He got tacos.
It's like I was made for this. That was moving to
Yes.
me as a Hulk fan.
Yeah.
Because, and also, to that point, once again, they called him because he's smart. Nothing needed to get punched. Maybe something needed to be, your maximum density did help. But other than that, his brain was what they came. And that's what Bruce has always wanted. If you're a real freaking Hulk fan and a real Bruce Banner fan, that was the ultimate fan service.
Yeah.
He finally got to be smart. He finally got to be smart and prove his worth in that way instead of just punching stuff.
Yeah.
And then he was in a sport role, literally holding up the entire thing so everybody didn't get smashed,
Yeah.
which is a Secret Wars call out. It's like, come on, bro. Like,
Yeah.
you're showing your knowing about comic books if you need that simple fan service.
Yeah. Well, I thought it fit his arc too, because to me his arc seemed to be he's stuck with the Hulk and Ragnarok, is able to shake it off and is sort of feels the impact of being like the most violent possible Hulk for a year. Then Thanos completely just trashes him, kills his confidence, really crushes any understanding he had of like what it meant to have this thing inside of him and blah, 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 this and that. He can't even like call it out anymore. And he has to figure out, a new way. Yeah, I don't think Time to Punch You More was ever felt like it needed to be the arc for Ruffaholic.
This movie, more than any other Marvel movie, I think, earns its action. Like, we're in a bad place for a long time in that movie. And even when you do get certain things that you think are action, like the Ronin scenes, that's just the camera panning. Well, they just drop pots and pans inside of a place, and they come down to the street, and then the guy from Tokyo gives his monologue, and then kills him. They didn't show us a bunch of action. They showed us a bunch of pathos and a bunch of emotional stakes, and they set up a bunch of emotional stakes for like an hour and some change. You know what I mean? Because they gave you that nice little hit of action. Right at the top. And then they let you stew in the fact that all that action didn't mean jack.
Yep.
Where it's going to require some intelligence. It's going to require some emotional intelligence. It's going to require a lot of characterization and character growth to get us out of here. The guy who won't put it on the line is going to have to put it on the line in the end. Things of this nature. I just really love the fact that, and I heard the story, I was watching the Russo's videos, 1,000 videos interviewing the Russos and McFeely and stuff. But I was watching one of the better ones, and they were like, the editor, whose name I forget, which is an eternal crime. But the editor saw that they did a cut of it being like Tony just snapping his fingers and not saying the line. And the editor said, no, we need to do this. And they did that. And it's like, oh my God, bullet dodged. Oh, that beautiful thing is, oh. So yeah, I just love the fact that this is a true collaboration across 22 films, and I don't care that your grandma can't follow it. I love it, and I'm gonna go see it again.
I have a little bit of a bone to pick, because you mentioned the interviews with Marcus and McFeely and the Russo brothers, and it's like, it feels like, and I've said it in the office, and I was like, what do you mean poor them? But I do feel sorry for them, because I feel like ever since the movies come out, they've been on an obligatory explanation tour, where it's like they put out a movie and now they have to visit 1,800 different locations and explain every last detail of the film, even if it doesn't need explanation, even if the explanation's in the movie. Like, they have to sit there and field questions about every last single plot detail of the movie, and it's like, the Captain America thing is what drives me nuts, because so many people screaming about what happened with Captain America. Like, it's a betrayal of his character. It's like, first of all, in the movie itself, no, the movie does not explicitly lay out what happened with Captain America. But like, watching it the second time, I think the phrase alternate timeline is said like 2 minutes before he disappears. And the way that they explain time is there's enough information for you as a viewer to decipher for yourself how you want it to work out.
Yeah.
mine was that, and even Marcus and like they asked the Russo brothers, and the Russo brothers are like, for us, Captain America lived in an alternate timeline where he did some good, but it wasn't the timeline in the thing. That was the interpretation that I liked to have. And then the writers, Marcus and McFeely, said, well, for us, Cap went back and lived in that past timeline, and he lived with Peggy and all that stuff. And so they have conflicting thoughts on what happened, and I've seen so many tweets and articles just like, well, if the writers and the director of the movie can't figure it out, then how can we? And it's like, listen, that's not a failure of them, it's a failure of your imagination. Like,
right.
If there's information in a film that allows you as a viewer to use your imagination and decide what something, it's not a plot hole. A plot hole would be if time travel was never brought up and old Captain America just showed up out of nowhere and it was never explained how he got old or where he went. He just showed up out of nowhere. Like, there is so much information in the film for you to decipher and say, like, okay, well, it could have gone this way or it could have gone this way. It's like, I did not want a 5-minute scene of Captain America sitting on a bench explaining where he'd been for the past 8 years. Like, well, Buck, here's how it went. I went to an alternate dimension where I know that Peggy said she had a husband in this timeline, but I went to an alternate timeline where I told them where the Tesseract was and destroyed it, and then I told them where Hydra was, and anyway,
then I acquired some PIM particles.
Yes. Anyway, Sam, you're Captain America now. I got to go. Bye. Like, no, it was such a great ending. Like,
I hope they did that and just had the credits rolling as he was explaining every single detail.
That's the best. No, have Michael Pena explain what happened to Captain America.
Yes.
Like,
Ant-Man style.
Yes, dude,
like,
that's the funniest.
I hate the idea. Like, there's enough information in the movie for you as a viewer to
go, okay,
to say to make up whatever you want for Captain America. Like, the point of the matter is, it's such a micro view. Like, the macro view is this guy who missed his entire life at the end of this adventure, after literally helping to save the entire universe, got a second chance to go back and he got the best of both worlds. He got to go be with this woman that he loved. It was an opportunity he thought had been lost to him, and after he literally laid down everything, he got this second chance, and then, like, beautifully was able to pass the mantle. And people are overlooking that and be like, but how did he do it? It's like, that information is there. Use your freaking imagination. You should
definitely.
These directors and writers should not have to sit and answer every last detail of a movie that you yourself, if you just decide to do what you, that's storytelling. That's it's the prequelization and sequelization of everything. As people have been conditioned to give answers for everything because franchises are so mined for every last bit of information that there's no mystery to
answers that
anymore.
They will eventually reject as well. You know what I'm saying? We're conditioned to want all these answers, and then when they give them to you, like, I don't like those answers. Those aren't the answers I had in my head for 10 years.
Make up the one that you want, and that's the one.
Right.
Like, it's not their responsibility, it's yours, because it's not, the information's there.
But let me tell you something. I hate that. I hate what you just talked about. That sucks. But you know what sucks worse than that? And I'm sorry if we're going to do some content like this. I'm going to put my foot in my mouth, as they say I always do in the chat. But let me tell you something. I don't give a damn how the real estate industry was had a problem with half of life going. I don't care that there's raccoons in your attic when you come back from your 5 years in the Soul Stone. How boring. How boring.
Ugh.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You might want to...
I don't care.
We literally have a video talking about
the science of the snap.
Of course we would have to have a video about that, but I'm saying if you're at home stewing about that as something that is a plot
If you expected
hole,
the movie to be like, hang on.
Yeah, as a comedy thing, I just did a little comedy bit about it. It's for comedy because it's funny to examine these things. I'm not dissing that. I'm dissing this whole like, Mike, I got to push my glasses to the back of my skull because I'm so mad that they didn't address that in the movie. Why would they? We're in a freaking action movie.
That's an experiment. That's like a hypothetical thing. It's not like I demand an explanation for this.
No,
it's
exactly.
Like, oh, this is an interesting avenue. Like, I wonder what this would be like. But it's not like I'm going to go to Marcus and McFeely and I'm going to demand an answer to what happened to real estate after the snap. Because you didn't put it in the movie, and that's on you.
And I've seen that.
I've
seen that, and I'm like, that sucks. As a thought experiment, like I said, we just did one. It's fun. But like as a real sticking point about why I'm going to say I didn't like this, sorry. sorry, bro.
Yeah, there's so many holes in this purple man snapping away life with magic.
And also, one thing I have seen people go is like the 5 years was too much. People have bitched about Fat Thor. I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to talk about that. Everybody knows all the sides of it. But the 5 years, so I've seen people be mad that the whole 5 years thing was so permanent. And I'm just like, dude, that's so dope. Because they're pushing their timeline into a distinct, new, alternate future. They don't have to have Barack Obama or whoever's the president. You know what I'm saying? They don't have to deal with any of that. And everybody got nano watches and stuff. You know, everybody's catching up to Wakanda. Wakanda's got teleportation now that we all got nano watches.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's like moving it into this sci-fi universe rather than a mimic of our universe. But yet, not quite as alien as the DC universe.
Yeah.
And that's a great adjustment.
Well,
I love
the 5 year
that.
thing, too, you know, bothers so many. Like the Peter's classmates thing. Like, you mean some of his classmates are now just suddenly 5 years younger? Yeah.
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 They probably have a special class or mixed class for them.
Yeah. And you know what, you'll see a couple references to it here and there, but ultimately they got to move their narratives forward. They got to move their stories forward. You know, if you're a comic reader, every 3 months they do War of the Realms or reality-shattering battle war or whatever, and insane things will happen.
That everybody remembers, too. It isn't always some kind of
maybe,
a dream or something.
Yeah, and, you know, that's just something you've got to do some willing suspension of disbelief because, you know, just purely in the comic books with comic book events, no one should be able to get through a normal day now. The normal person on Earth has experienced so much trauma that, like...
They're all that bicycle kid.
No one should live in New York.
Yeah.
Like, you would have to be insane to live in New York.
Yeah.
Or how many times has
South
it been
Korea? Seoul, I think, has had like 5 action scenes.
Oh, yeah, the MCU. South Korea has been through the ringer with the MCU.
Yeah. You shouldn't be able, at this point in comics, like, you shouldn't be able to look at the sky without remembering 30 different instances of an energy blast or a spaceship or a dead Avenger falling in your yard. Like, everyone is broken and ruined.
When that happens.
And so they should be, but ultimately you've got to continue pushing narrative forward. So some stuff you just got to leave in the back.
And I'm not going to mention the exact things that have happened, but in our lifetimes, some unthinkable sci-fi incredible things have happened.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
Let's say.
Or even just normal things.
And we're just like, wow. Oh, but like normal things, like the fact that the computer in my pocket is better than everything NASA made in the last 100 years. Because NASA was around 100 years ago, because I'm stupid.
I almost got hit by a car a couple weeks ago coming back to the office from Subway. Every time I make that Subway walk now, I still go, now think about everything that's happened in the MCU. Think about it, a city getting lifted by an AI and then getting dropped on the ground. Like, everyone's screwed. And at some point, it's like, are you just going to sit and work on that? Like, is that going to be the next 15 movies people want? Or are you going to go, okay, let's move forward? Like, there was which event was it? It was like right after Civil War. I remember there was just some random page where you're just seeing cities just completely being destroyed and annihilated, and there was just like there's like the narrator box of all the horrible things that's happening, like Greece just exploded, and then the next one was like autism rates just rose by 80%, and it's like what? Is Marvel Comics gonna just like what? Like, that's crazy. And the comics never touched that again. It was just like, here's the horrible scope of the horrible thing that's happening to Marvel right now. It was after whatever came after Secret Invasion.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of comics, though. You could tear the world up, and then the next day, Jack Kirby on up to Oliver Copiol or whoever you like is drawing it right back in. And that's the magic of comic books, and thusly the magic of comic book movies.
And we're running out of time, so we're not going to get into sort of ideas of like what we want to see next today. But that's the fascinating thing to me about what happens next with the movies. Like, how far comics versus big screen can people push their willing suspension of disbelief? Like, if we're going to get that hung up on multiverse alternate timeline for Cat.
That I want them to do? I really want. Okay. I understand Holland is a young actor, and maybe he might want to do other things after a little while. But while you got him, smoke him if you got him. I want Marvel team up. I want smaller movies with Spider-Man teaming up with different heroes. And they're just one-off adventures. They don't have to have any lasting continuity other than Spider-Man getting better at being Spider-Man.
shaking hands with Jake Gyllenhaal.
You know what I mean? I would love that because Spider-Man is the type of guy who'd be somewhere and get in an adventure and be like, hey, can I trust you, guy? Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. And then they get into a whole adventure and he's changed by the end. That could be nice little cute one-off movies in a series of them, like Spider-Man and another person, and bring that type of comic book stuff to movies, one-shots, little smaller things, little taking less proven creators and putting them on something, even with the A-list people and seeing what happens.
Even if they're Disney Plus movies. I think
exactly.
Stuff like that could be really cool.
So that's one thing I would like to see.
Any other closing thoughts, gents?
Well, I want to see a reverse Captain America movie. I want to follow him in that alternate timeline when he goes back with Peggy. And instead of being, a man from the past, he's a man from the future, and nobody gets his references. He saw Star Wars in Winter Soldier. He's seen all the best stuff that's coming, and then maybe like that Beatles movie that's coming out, like he creates Star Wars. I like steals the idea from Star Wars.
Steven Rogers, the best filmmaker of all time. Jaws.
I do kind of love that.
Citizen Kane.
The Beatles. He's doing everything.
And he'd make a really woke Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
Like it just changed it all the time.
Now, Gone with the Wind came out before he was.
Okay, it'd be a remake. Damn it.
He sneaks the Civil Rights Act to Nick Fury. Make this happen.
I love it.
Yeah, I
Love
think
it.
That's funny.
That's in my head what happened.
It's the movie. I really like the movie, and there are definitely things that I think, like legitimate things that you can ask questions about, like the one I came up with, and I'm sure they'll explain it in a further movie. Was if time works differently in the quantum realm, then how come Michelle Pfeiffer aged 30 years and Paul Rudd was only in there for 5 hours? Like that's a good question. I don't demand an answer. I'm sure they'll explain it, but it's put in perspective to me. At least as far as I've fallen into the trap too myself, just being like, well, I don't get this, and there are things as plot holes. That's true, they exist, but I think sometimes people label things as plot holes that are just
we can't see the
forest.
It's up to you, and that's not laziness on the part of the movie. It's asking you to use your imagination, which is what most movies did, because most movies didn't have sequels, and you just had to kind of guess what happened next, and whatever you thought of, you were right.
Well, a lot of times storytellers want to show you this whole forest, and you're just looking at this one birch tree, and you're like, ah!
So I've fallen into that trap before, and I'm going to try to be better about it in the future, because not everything requires a lengthy explanation. Some things do, but some things don't.
Well said. And that said, that's our show today. We'll get into maybe tomorrow, later in the week, a little more about like sort of looking ahead to the future of the MCU, what we know is coming. What we'd like to see, like my Black Widow What Dreams May Come movie. Screen Junkies News is now Fandom Entertainment, as I hope you realize by now, because it's us with different branding and some cool shapes and colors and music. Make sure you like and subscribe. SJU every morning. It's our morning show. It's The View, but whatever this just was, with a lot of cool other content and videos coming out. Some stuff to check out on fandom.com. We have 2 really cool articles written by Daniel Radford. Why Black Widow is the MCU's most tragic character, and how Iron Man launched a phenomenon against the odds, sort of a look back at the weird early Dark Ages when the trades were like, what the hell are these kids thinking?
Notorious drug addict takes over comic book.
To be followed up by a bunch of no-names playing Norse gods. That works out. That's our show, guys. Have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.